An anthropologist proposed a game to children of an African tribe. He put a basket of fruit near a tree and told the children that the first one to reach the fruit would win them all. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hand and ran together, then sat together enjoying the fruit. When asked why they ran like that, they said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? Ubuntu is a philosophy of African tribes that can be summed up as I am because we are. Working with communities and schools to improve the lives of all children. Parents for Public Schools of Jackson.
Welcome to Lunch Bunch. I'm Annie Archie, board member, Parents of Public Schools of Jackson, graduate of Jackson Public Schools, and a former teacher, well, a retired teacher of Jackson Public Schools. Lunch Bunch meets on the first Wednesday of every month at 11:45, except January. We invite you to come and bring a friend. For those who may not be familiar with Parents of Public Schools of Jackson, the organization was founded here in Jackson in 1989. Our work centers around supporting parents as partners with the school and the education of their children, ensuring that all children have access to quality teaching and learning, and engaging the public in support of public schools. PPSJ has adopted a philosophy from Africa called Ubuntu. At its core, Ubuntu is described as I am because we are. Finally, it's my pleasure to recognize the Executive Director of Parents of Public Schools of Jackson, Carolyn Jolivet, and the PPS support team, Gwen Gardner, Edie Graham, and Pat Reynolds. At this time, we are delighted to have as our speaker Dr. Freddrick Murray, Interim Superintendent of Jackson Public Schools, back with us. He's going to give us updates on Corrective Action Plan and to discuss District Instructional Management Plan, leveraging collective impact with focus on academics, and the Superintendent Search. Dr. Murray has been appointed Interim Superintendent of Jackson Public Schools. He is a veteran educator of more than 20 years with an extensive leadership background. Dr. Murray most recently served as Chief Academic Officer of high schools. Prior to joining the Central Office leadership team in JPS, he served as building principal at all levels. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Interim Superintendent of Jackson Public Schools, Dr. Freddrick Murray.
Thank you all for the invitation, Ms. Jolivet, team members. We always appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with the parents for public schools and with those community supporters. It's important, I think, to kind of bring you up to speed on where we are. The last time I stood before you, it was just a few days shy of 2 months ago. And the last statement I made to you all, I told you all a story about collective impact. And I asked you all to, as a community, to kind of help us join hands. And so I want to just provide an update of those sorts. We have been overwhelmed on a positive side with support from the community. And this is genuine support. People who have reached out to us from far and near who've said, I graduated from JPS. What can I do to support? We cannot be taken over by the state. How can we refocus our efforts, our finances to align with the needs of the district to better support the efforts of JPS? I sat just recently with some retired teachers and administrators and board members, and we had a strategic planning session where we talked about what can we do to help re-engage some of those people that have not been involved in the district for many years. I had a gentleman that walked in the door and said, I need 5 minutes of your time. Let me give you a check for $1,000 for 5 minutes of your time because I want to talk to you about, but of course that was for JPS. Mary received it in the finance office, and we'll use that to provide resources. But he said, I just want to give you a word of advice, word of wisdom, and I know you're busy, so let me start with this. So I want to provide support. So those are the kinds of answers to the call that we've received, and that's how we leverage our collective impact. This is our district, this is our city, and where JPS goes, or the city goes, contrary to popular belief, is where our state goes. And so I think that we have to embrace that, and we have to work together to make sure that we lift our district out of this space that we're in right now. The last time we were here, we had some specific, simple goals, and we talked about those. And my commitment to you all was that I wasn't going to come in and try to do things just to say that we were doing things. It was going to be a very specific focus. We were going to secure approval for the Corrective Action Plan. We were going to try to move the district from probation to accredited status. And simultaneously, we were going to work on those issues that existed in the investigative audit. We were going to focus on improving academic performance at those schools that were DNF, and then we were going to ensure safe and orderly environments. So we were very strategic about moving into that plan. And it gives me a great pleasure to announce that the CAP was approved. We attended a state board meeting, and the CAP was approved, which was a major lift for us, because if your corrective action plan is not approved, then you can't move forward with the work. But on that same note, the state superintendent was very clear about her concern that we could implement the plan. So you have a plan, but can you implement? And the reason for that was because there are auditors in the buildings now. That's the reason why many of our principals are not here, because auditors are all throughout our building. But she had seen some things, or had gotten reports that there were some issues in some buildings. So she was very candid, attended our board meeting, and talked to our public about the concerns they had as to whether we could implement the plan. And so we made a very strategic effort to create a sense of urgency within our district. Every person in the district needed to have the same sense of urgency that we had as a leadership team in order to push this flywheel forward. We had meetings on January the 6th, which was a professional development day for all of our staff. We put a plan in place where we're meeting with our principals weekly to talk about the sense of urgency that exists. We're inspecting what we expect, which is how we are proving that we can implement this plan, and we feel confident that we're moving in the right direction. You know, we talked about the audit that we had last year, the legislative audit, and there were specific standards that were checked. And it was my thought that once we clear these issues, then we could take that away and the legislative audit would be resolved, and then we go into the investigative audit. But that is not the case. They're one and the same. They're not separate issues. So the investigative audit is primary now. So if we had 13 issues in 13 schools and we got those 13 things resolved, we cannot be cleared by the state until the remaining schools clear those things as well. So it's no longer a separate issue. So we understand that now. We have an update planned for later next week with MDE. So we've been communicating with them frequently and making those revisions. We've scheduled trainings for our curriculum and instruction staff with MDE. We've had technical assistance visits over the last 60 days, probably upwards of 10 to 20 of those visits. And our goal is to help us determine how to do this right so that we can move the work forward. But a lot of work has been done. But in the community, we want you to be educated and understand that there won't be a clearance. It won't be where you'll be able to see that these things are being cleared, because you have to clear all standards at all schools before the state will clear the standard. So it's our responsibility as a community to communicate with our friends that are in the community and share with them some of the things that are happening and the progress that's being made in our district. Focus on improving academic performance, and I said the last time we met, and I'll say again, this is for me the most important piece of all of this work, because this is the teaching and learning. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is how our students grow and prosper through a successful educational plan. We've successfully implemented a plan, an instructional management plan in all of our schools. Now, is it where we want it to be? No, because it requires training. We talked about the number of novice teachers we have. We talked about the number of subs we have. So with that, there's work that's required to move people to the level that they need to be in order to be effective. But does everyone know what to do, when to do it, why to do it, and how? Yes. When we talk about good to great and being on the same bus, everybody understands where we are on the bus and where the seat is. Now we can continue to move that bus forward, and that's the work, because we had a lot of silos in work, and you all that have been involved in JPS understand that a lot of our work has been in silos. And so it was important for us to make sure that we're all in the same space, moving in the same direction. We've made some changes. We've made some changes as it relates to staff. There are some people that were at the table that are not at the table anymore. There's some reorganization in the organization, and that's not to throw stones at anyone. It's just that there are some changes that have to be made in an organization to move the organization forward at times, and this is one of those times. I had a visit from a parent who said that he had visited a high school, been in that high school for 20 times in the last year. He wanted to come see me because of the dramatic turnaround that he had seen in the high school. Now, he's not an educator. He's not in the classrooms looking at teacher engagement. That wasn't what he was talking about. But he could tell that the environment was conducive to learning, that it was a place where teaching and learning could take place. And that is kind of consistent as we hear people that have been in our schools, the kind of work that they're saying. Again, we've made some changes in our security department. We've provided some additional support. We have a building at Bradley. You all know we have a leadership team that worked out of that building. Many of those individuals are now working in the schools, providing support throughout in the district on the ground. We're not attempting to police our students, but we need safety folk helping us have safe schools. Again, these are some of the highlights of some things that we've done from a safety standpoint that were highlighted on the audit. You know, our schools have updated crisis plans. Every school, you can walk into school and there's an updated crisis response plan. Our safety officers meet the requirements that are set forth, and there were some issues with that. Emergency drills are taking place in schools, something that was happening in some places and maybe not in others, and we're successfully documenting that. Our middle and high schools have effective two-way rating. If you've been a principal or been in a school, you know that's extremely important to be able to have contact, two-way contact. We have video surveillance equipment that's being updated throughout our schools to help us to monitor. Our metal detectors have been replaced and have been recalibrated to make sure that we can detect when things are coming into our building. So these are things that we've done over the last 60 or so days as it relates to safety. There are a lot of things that are happening. We're currently involved in Superintendent Search. This is the information for our website, but we need you as a community to be involved in this process. This is your district. And so with it being your district, your voice needs to be heard as it relates to how we move forward with this process. There are community groups, there are surveys that are out there. We ask you to be engaged in the process so that you can have a say-so as we move forward with this. This is an important time, and each time we have Superintendent Search, we encourage those who care about the district to be involved in that process, so that's extremely important. As a part of our Corrective Action Plan, we said that we would do a school consolidation study, and we're in the middle of that school consolidation study. Next year, the district will look different. You know, we will be making some recommendations over the next couple of months about some consolidations in our district. One I can share with you, the study is not complete, but hopefully if I come before you before the year is out, I'll be able to give you some specifics on that. But Rowan, for one, is one specific site. Rowan next year will be repurposed as a REAP center, re-engagement center. It's for students, it will be for high school students who are over age, under credit. So 25 to 35 students who are over age, under credit, that are in high schools will have the opportunity to go to what we call a fast track program, and we'll be able to get those students graduated. Right now we have about 70 students in that program at Morrison, which is not large enough for the growth projections, and we're graduating about 35 to 40 students a year with the small number that we have. So the students have access to online class recovery. There are individuals working with them face-to-face, small class sizes, and so they're able to catch up and to graduate. We want to triple that, and we'll do that at Rowan on next year. So we've already made the decision. We've met with the teachers in the community, and we've made the decision to make this transition. So those students will go to Brinkley next year. Rowan will be a total re-engagement center and we feel like that is what's best for our children. As I mentioned to you all before, it is my goal throughout this interim period to put us in a situation where 10 years from now, we'll be successful. We're looking at some things with pre-K education. We're working with some partners on some collaboratives that we think will help us increase the number of students that we have in pre-K classrooms across our city. Today, again, we wanted to just provide you with an update of where we are, to let you know that the work is being done, that we have competent people at the table, and we're continuing to kind of tweak our work so that we can do what's best for the students in our district. And the biggest piece is, how do you make sure that this happens? You hold everybody accountable. I think that everybody in the organization understands that. It's about accountability. For me, I'm accountable to the board is accountable to the public, and those that work in this district will have to be accountable. And that's the only way we can move the needle, is that all of us, we do what's necessary to get out of the space that we're in and then sustain the kind of growth that we know that's needed in this district, and that is possible in this district.
Dr. Murray, do you have any openings or waiting for retired teachers to work?
We do. Actually, we made a decision, the leadership team and the CAOs, we have Ms. Evans, who's middle school, Dr. Stanton, who's serving in an interim capacity at the high school, Dr. King at Elementary Division 1, and Dr. Merrick, Elementary Division 2. They have 19 schools each. These are the people that you can see by grade level. We have some class size reduction positions, something that we just decided in December that we would bring back. Class size reduction are smaller class sizes. We're focusing on third grade, no more than 15 students. And so we are recruiting teachers. Retirees would be best case, because at this point, a person that doesn't have a job, if you're not a recent retiree, then there may be some concerns. But there are some retirees that are sitting at home that are chomping at the bit. If you need 12, if 15 is too many, we work it out where you have 12. If you need 10, we'll work it out. If you can just handle 10, we can't go any lower than 10. But we'll work with you again. But again, the class size is 15. But we're taking a very strategic approach to growth, and we believe that if we reduce the class size, we have some funding in this area. And so we made a decision that we think that we can move the needle over this next semester with reducing that class size in some of our buildings that have the most challenges. So again, that opportunity is available for any teacher. If you are a retiree and you know a retiree that might be interested, please put them in contact with Dr. King, Dr. Merritt, and we'll be glad to talk with them.
Okay, so we're doing the superintendent search, but at the same time we're having the audit. You said, and I guess I'm trying to figure out, when I look at the website, when is the deadline for these to be rectified?
The legislative audit has now been kind of taken in by the investigative audit. So that process, the timeline on it will be determined by MDE, because MDE, they'll come back to us with findings. The MDE determines the timeline as it relates to when things are complete. And so once the audit is complete, then they will issue findings, and then they will issue recommendations. MDE has said to me that they don't have a desire to take over JPS. That is what has been communicated to me. And so the goal is for us to work collaboratively to do what is best to move us out of the space. And so that's the spirit that we go into the conversation with. We're working with them. If we have a question, we're contacting MD. There's training. We're asking for the training. If we're not doing something that should be done, then tell us how to fix it, and we're going to fix it. There's no adversarial relationship there. The main issue is safety. Safety now, I would guarantee that safety now in every building is far better than it was when they came in last year. So if we're moving in that direction, if we're moving toward the bar or the mark, then it's my hope that they will assist us in that and allow us to continue the positive work. But again, the audit, the timeline is totally up to MDE. Once they complete that, then we'll know. But next week, we'll have a better grasp on where we are and how long we'll be in the midst of the actual audit. We are having community chats throughout our district. We've asked that they have a different focus each month. This is the time of the year when you'll start hearing about the testing and the points. We met this morning to talk about just what you're talking about, how we strategically address that box. And if you understand what I mean, those 100 points or those 1,000 or 700 points, depending on the grade level. Currently, our graduation rate is 70.2, up from 67, 66 the year before, 65. So that's a box that we already know as a district. We picked up some points. So you do the math, 70 times 2. Last year was 66 times 2. So we've already picked up some points there. So we know we're moving in the right direction. And we know in our district, we do growth well. We grow students well. And so we're focusing now on growing students. We've been training on that. We're soliciting partners to help us with that. We're being strategic in our efforts, because we could say, well, we're going to focus on the bottom 25, which are, some of you out there in schools understand that. Those students that are in that space, it may not be best to put specific efforts in that area. You may have to do some other things, some more interventions, but you may have to, if it's an after-school program, you may have to put the after-school program with students that are on the bubble in a sense, or those students who are right a point or so away from making the gains that you need them to make for growth. We don't want to wonder where we are. We will know where we are when it comes time to test. And that's just how specific our work is going to be and how deliberate we're going to be in the work moving forward.
Talk a little bit about transportation. I know on my block, the buses are constantly late.
In the audit, it was very clear that transportation we had some challenges with transportation. What are the reasons for that? Because when I came into the seat, my question was, why are the buses late? I mean, why are they late? We are paid to be on time. Why are we late? And so that's how we start. What came back from that is we have a shortage with drivers. That's one. We don't have the ideal number of buses. But the bigger problem is we have some special program routes that cause us to take many of our buses out of the fleet. So, for example, if a child is at Bailey APAC, Bailey is one school that serves the entire district. So that bus has to go all the way deep South Jackson, and another bus may have to go all the way to County Line. So those buses can't be used on a rotating basis as an elementary, middle school bus that might go to a Span, that may go to a Chastain and to a Murrah. We've done the GPS systems, which was step one. GPS tells us where our issues are. So we've loaded all buses with GPS, and that will help us improve our routes. And we're getting data that we can use. It's not where a bus is late here, why is the bus late? We know why the buses are late now, and so that's something that's new. We've added 4 new buses, and buses cost about $80,000 per bus. We've removed vehicles that were out of compliance. That was one of the issues, that we were using buses that were not in compliance. We've moved all of the buses that are out of compliance somewhere else. They can't be driven. We have people on the ground at schools. Prime example at Callaway. We had buses that were passing by going to the bus yard, 3 or 4 buses that were passing by in the afternoon that were going to the bus yard, and we still had students standing at Callaway. So, but again, the drivers were doing what they were supposed to do. That's their route. But if you have somebody on the ground that sees that's in transportation, they can say, you know what? Why can't those 3 buses? Why can't we reroute those 3 buses? They pick up students that are late. Those are the kinds of things that you have to do. So we're fixing those things that we can. And as we move forward, our commitment is not to have any late buses in this district.
Do you have a group working on innovative ideas for volunteering of grandparents?
I am putting together a small superintendent's advisory group. Okay, and so small superintendent's advisory group. Some individuals we work with, for example, Parents of Public Schools. We collaborate monthly. There are some other groups, Lima Jackson. We collaborate monthly. It's a different kind of group, and Mr. Johnson knows the parameters of that.
No matter where we go, many times the community would like to know what can I do to help JPS? Many of you have different talents in different circles of influence. We have a Partners in Education department which works with retired educators, principals, parents, students, anyone that wants to volunteer. There are a multitude of things you can do to contribute. In our Partners in Education department, we collect school supplies for teachers who might need assistance in supplementing some of the things that they need for the classroom. We collect uniforms for our elementary and middle school students, and we have tutoring programs that you can help. We have after-school or weekend ACT workshops. We have our Watchdog program for fathers who want to donate their time to assist in our school buildings. There are a multitude of ways that you can help, as Dr. Murray indicated, move the needle. And what we want to do is be more strategic in our partnerships. Cupcakes and pizza parties are okay, but they have their place. So we want to provide you with information that will help the services that you can provide help us to move from an F to a D to a C and so forth. A copy of this is also available on our website, and look at some of the information here and identify what it is that you can do to help the school district. And if there's something on this list that you would like to contribute that is not on the list, rather, let us know, and we'll work with you. Thea Faulkner is our Director of Partners in Education, does a wonderful job. Either her or myself will be the person to speak with to volunteer. Thank you.
We're reaching out. That's how we're doing it. We're reaching out, being very deliberate about asking for help. Now, with that, we need to make sure that the work is aligned. You know, the work, once we come to the table, we need to make sure that all of what we're doing is aligned to meet the needs of the district. Right now, we have 25 retired teacher mentors in our district. We had 20, and we just added an additional 5. So those are things that we're doing. We collaborate. I met with the HR department just 2 days ago to talk about ways that we can bring back retirees, because we have people that are sitting at home that have tremendous value and that know how to work with the students that we serve every day.
I know a lot of emphasis is being put on teachers, but is there any work you're doing with, say, for instance, retired federal employees?
You know, we have military people that want to be involved, but how do we get them certified? How do we bring them back into the fold? So I'd be very interested in having that conversation with you. We can talk about what that would look like and possible models that are across the country that we could possibly employ. So thank you all. Again, we want you all, when you leave the space, to advocate for us. During my time doing this leadership, I'll never ask you to make excuses for us. But we do ask you to be fair and ask others to be fair and look at the work that's happening. Get on board in a positive way and work with us and continue to help us to move the needle in the right direction.
When you have a vested interest, as I do, I have been doing my talking behind the scenes, but you're right, it's time for many of us to step forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Please join us for our next lunch bunch, which is March 1st, 2017, right here, same time. We would like to invite you to a mini conference that will be held at Millsaps College on February the 9th and 10th. The title of this conference is This is How You Are a Citizen, Humanities and Civic Life in Mississippi. Our panels will be facilitated and moderated by David J. Dennis, Jr., writer and journalism professor at Morehouse College, and both panels will highlight students from our E3 internship program, along with the civil rights activists Flancy Brown Wright and Hollis Watkins Muhammad. Until then, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and check out our website. We have a great website, so please check it out, and please like us on Facebook for upcoming news and events coming out of our communities. Remember, we're working together to improve the lives of all of our children.